G'day new starters, how you doing this week? A fat cat, a woman without hope, and a desperate wealthy man. What might those all have in common? Well, let me first tell you the story of the fat cat. This particular cat is a cat named Sibby, who is one of our 4 pet cats. Sibby was a cute little kitten when she was born, and the children decided to keep her after the rest of the litter were given away. But it didn't last very long because she began to grow fairly quickly, and not very long she was an adult cat that was completely disinterested in being connected to the family at all. In fact, it got to the place where she would be gone all day. She'd disappear outside. You wouldn't see her. She would sneak in at night, get her food, and then disappear again. If you did get close enough to her, she would probably snarl at you. And if you picked her up, she would cry and squirm and howl until you let her down, and then she would be gone like a bullet. Well, when we had to move home, we put in place the standard home moving policy for cats, and that is you lock them in a room for 3 days when you get to the new facility, and you feed them there and you love them there. And after about 3 days, that room is the safe place that they are able to begin to explore and journey throughout the rest of the house. Well, Sibby we put in our bedroom, and for a couple of days she stayed under the bed, and then after those couple of days, she actually came out and went under the blankets in the bed and slept and lived down the bottom of our bed under the blankets. You could feel her with your foot when you went to sleep, but she would hardly come out. Late at night she would come out and she would eat the food that was available for her, and then she would sneak back down and hide back under the bed. She stayed in the bed for probably about a month or more, and then she began to explore into the room, but never left the room. And she had little spots in the room where she would hide, but she never left the room. And that went on for about 6 months before she finally started to feel comfortable enough to explore the rest of the house. But during that time, she discovered something amazing that transformed her life. She discovered she was loved, and she became an affectionate member of the family who is almost, she never goes outside, and she sits in the living room with the family while we're watching TV, and every time you go past her, she'll give a little cry in the hope that you might stop and talk to her and give her a pat for a little bit. And so she was transformed because she was forced to remain in a situation where she could just be loved, and she chose the safety of the room because of her fear. But in that environment, she discovered that she really did like being loved. Well, in the 4th chapter of John, there are 2 stories of love bridging the gap. The first story is a story of bridging the gap of racism and religious intolerance with a woman at the well whose life seems to be going nowhere, and she has no hope. And Jesus speaks into her life in a way that shows her who he really is. And the Bible says that those who knew her believed in Jesus because of the way that he loved her. And then there's the story of a very, very wealthy man who comes to Jesus and says, my son is sick and about to die. And Jesus' response bridges the gap between poverty and wealth, and sees the man in his need, sees his heart, and responds to his need, and his child is healed. And the incredible part of those 2 stories is the truth that John is trying to get across, is that those people that were around that situation believed in Jesus because of the way he responded to those key people, the desperate woman and the hopeless woman and the desperate wealthy man. Because that's what love does. Love bridges gaps, and it creates a place where transformation can take place.